Hi there, I'm the Reverend Danny Crosby, a Unitarian minister serving congregations in Altrincham and in Urmston in the northwest of England. And I'm offering this devotion as a balm for the heart, for the mind, for the spirit, and for the soul. And it's titled The Spiritual Life. It's an imperfect I thou relationship. I recently spent a week at Great Hucklow participating in summer school there. The title for this year was Real Life, telling the truth of our lived experiences, and it's the first time that summer schools met in person since the pandemic. I, along with a colleague, the Reverend Laura Dobson, led an engagement group through the week, and it was titled A Life Less Ordinary, and the group was exploring experiences both of the ordinary material life, certainly reflecting on our recent experiences and experience of our lives, as well as reflecting on the life perhaps beyond merely the material, the spiritual life, if you like, the deeper aspects too. Sometimes experiences that are hard to understand and explain. Now, Laura and myself are very, very different people, but I think we complemented one another during the week. There were many other activities that went on, and one of them was a series of talks given during the morning worship, all week long, led by Louise Baumberg. And it touched on the theme of listening to the stories of other people, especially the more marginalised in life, and how vital it is that we see one another as fellow human beings, as the same as us, how all life and one another are sacred beings, exploring ways to live on a relational level with one another and with life itself. Her talks were challenging. She was unafraid to explore difficult themes. It was a really good week, a week that I would describe as of experiencing spiritual intimacy at times. I engage with many folk in a way that can be quite rare. And I hope I can better carry these experiences into my life and into my ministry. Always accepting, of course, I won't do that perfectly. Sometimes it can be difficult to see each other as ourselves in others. It can be a challenge. We all do it. We aspire to live better lives, but no one does it perfectly. Certainly not me, anyway. It's no easy task to engage with other people in a truly relational way. We all have our own quirks, our peculiarities. And the truth is, on a much wider scale, so many of our troubles are caused by not seeing other people as our brothers and sisters, by seeing them as somehow not fully just like us. That we all share a common humanity, that golden rule of compassion, to treat others as we would want to be treated, at the core of all the great traditions. I suspect that this not seeing ourselves in others and others in ourselves is the root cause of so much human barbarity. And it still goes on today, sadly. There are people close to home and in other lands who we somehow see as other, as not as us. We all do it. I've seen an example myself only this week of separating another. It happened in the park. It revealed in myself what I learnt about while away. Just my response to something which, from a place of fear. But we all share a common humanity, and while we do so, we also must acknowledge that each of us are unique while sharing a common humanity. No two people are exactly alike, and it's important to honour and celebrate human diversity. None of us do that perfectly either, but we at least aspire to it. And the key, of course, is always goodwill and intent and an attempt to do better, I guess, to understand where someone else is coming from, to try and empathise in a deep way, but to accept that none of us are perfect at the same time. And we can't do this perfectly, that nothing is perfect. Does not mean we don't aspire to do better, but we can't do anything perfectly. One of the great plagues of humanity is perfectionism, in seeking perfection both within ourselves and other people. How many times, I wonder, have I rejected either myself or others, or life itself, because it did not offer me perfection? How many times have I noticed others doing the same? By the way, it's a lot easier to see others doing it than sometimes see it in myself. But I do it. I'm as human as the next person. Nothing in life is perfect. Life is always imperfect. I'm pretty much convinced that that's how life ought to be. Yes, of course, it's important, it's vital really to strive to do better, to improve ourselves and the world in which we live, but not perfectionism. For perfectionism can be deeply destructive. Now, the word itself is an interesting one, or the word imperfection is one of those interesting words that doesn't mean as what it once did. Of course, it doesn't. When today we say that something is imperfect, we are usually making a judgment about something, suggesting that there is something wrong with it. In so doing, we are making an error. Imperfection comes from the Latin imperfectus, which actually means incomplete. So when we say that we are imperfect, that others are imperfect, that life itself is imperfect, we are, of course, correct in the sense that nothing is ever complete. It's not that there's something wrong, it's that it's not complete. The mistake we have made is that in saying that someone or something is imperfect, we have suggested that they are, or it is somehow wrong, or there's something wrong with it. But we couldn't be more wrong. Imperfection in itself, actually, this incompleteness, is what makes life what it is. It is the energy, it's the fuel of life. For it's through imperfection that the energy to create relationship is fueled, to bring a more wholeness to our lives and the lives of others. Imperfection, incompleteness is the energy of life. This brings to mind that a rather lovely poem by Harold Kushner called Jigsaw. There must have been a time when you entered a room and met someone, and after a while you understood that, unknown to either you, there was a reason you had met. You had changed the other, and he had changed you. By some word or deed, or just by your presence, the errand had been completed. Then perhaps you were a little bewildered or humbled and grateful, and it was over. Each lifetime is the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. For some, there are more pieces. For others, the puzzle is more difficult to assemble. Some seem to be born with a nearly completed puzzle, and so it goes. Souls going this way and that, trying to assemble the myriad parts. But know this, no one has within themselves all the pieces of their puzzle. Like before the days when they used to seal jigsaw puzzles in cellophane, ensuring that all the pieces were there. Everyone carries with them at least one and probably many pieces to someone else's puzzle. Sometimes they know it, sometimes they don't. And when you present your piece, which is worthless to you, to another, whether you know it or not, whether they know it or not, you are a messenger from the Most High. And of course, we cannot live protected in our little cellophane, thinking that we can somehow grow and improve if we keep ourselves safe in that cellophane and not mix too much with others. We need to reach towards others to to move towards a more completed puzzle, I guess, though it's never fully complete. I love the way that Kushner explains why we are incomplete, that it is through our incompleteness that we draw closer together. It is so true. We are relational beings. We do not live in separation. We do not live separate lives. We are constantly seeking unity, to be yoked beyond ourselves. The word yoga actually means to join, to unite. It seems to me that all the great spiritual traditions, Eastern and Western, are in their own way pointing toward this, that the spiritual life cannot exist in isolation. In actual fact, to live spiritually is to live in relation. That there is a yearning within us all to find that missing piece. And so attempting to do so, by the way, we enable others to find theirs too. They need us as much as we need them. We cannot grow spiritually in isolation. The spiritual life is about relation. When we come together in love, we create the love that we've all been searching for, and it grows and gains. It's that beautiful spirituality of subtraction where we grow by subtraction, somehow, multiply by subtraction. The strange arithmetic of giving of the spiritual life, I guess. It's about relation and relationships. It's all about that. Brings to mind a beautiful extract from Radical Hospitality, Benedict's Way of Love by Father Daniel Holman and Lonnie Collins Pratt. In the chapter, hospitality begins inside pages 33 to 34. They wrote, "We are caught up in what is probably the most immature attempt at spirituality humanity has ever seen. It is tragically and poignantly adolescent, with the deep emotion and angst that goes with adolescence. It is a spirituality that seeks improvement for life, a better me, a better relationship, but it does not seek God, and it does not move us towards others. It just keeps us running on the treadmill of our little egocentric worlds. We are accustomed to easy answers. Hospitality is not an easy answer. It requires that we take a chance and we change. It requires us to grow. The moment we engage with another person, everything gets messy. Our time becomes not quite our own. We can count on others interrupting us. We become subject to a whole horde of emotional dangers. Because hospitality always involves giving something of ourselves to others, it is a spiritual practice. Spirituality is about relationship. When you and I become confused about the meaning of spirituality, remembering that spirituality is about relationships will bring us back to the basics. Relationships. One of my frustrations with some of the aspects of contemporary spirituality is that it does not seem to be about relationships at all. It seems to be all about the self, but almost about protecting ourselves from the messiness of living. Maybe that's why it seems so appealing to some of us. The truth is, of course, that you can somehow rise above life, I guess. The truth is, of course, that all we ever achieve in blocking ourselves from the messiness of life, from circling our spiritual wagons, if you like, is that we increase the loneliness and the sense of emptiness. We cannot be complete. For the spiritual life is about relationship. We need to be in what I have often heard called right relationship with ourselves, with others, with whatever it is that we believe connects us, all of us to life, to all of life, the divine, God, to live spiritually life, however we understand God. You know, I can usually get a good measure as to where I am at spiritually by simply checking where I am relationally with myself, with others, with God. They are all interconnected. They are all interrelated. Do I see myself in others? Do I see others in myself? Whenever I seem to begin to separate or see myself as separate, it's usually a sign there's something not right with my spiritual condition. My week at summer school brought these feelings to my heart and mind, as have my interactions in the last few days. Been an emotional time. And there has been a sense, a desire at times to withdraw, to separate, or the opposite way, to separate others. But if we're not doing it inwardly to ourselves, perhaps we're pushing away others or seeing others as not as same as ourselves. Dangerous. But it happens to us all. Nobody's perfect. During the week of theme talks, Louise Baumberg made reference to Martin Buber and his book, I Thou, first published in 1923 and translated from German into English in 1937. Buber taught that the most important moments in all of life are the moments we meet and communicate deeply with one another. He called these I Thou moments. He taught that everything really good in human life, such as love, learning, and the feeling of being appreciated, knowing that someone really cares for us, comes from these moments of meeting. Now, to me, this is the essence of the spiritual life of living spiritually alive. Buber suggested that we have two basic orientations toward the world, I-it and I-thou. I-it is the way we relate to an object or thing that we experience, something that's separate from us, that we use or don't use, something that we see from a distance, if you like. These are empty relationships that have no spiritual charge, no energy, no spiritual energy. The spirit doesn't seem alive in them. Buber labelled the I-thou encounters as genuine engagements with others. In such encounters, we drop our dispensers and open our whole being to their whole being. In so doing, we recognize their inherent worth and dignity, their common humanity, that we are the same. To Buber, this authentic relationship is where meaning is found. He wrote, When I encounter a being as my thou and speak the basic word I thou to him, there is no thing among things, nor does he consist of things. He is no longer he or she, a dot in the world grid of space and time, nor a condition to be experienced and described, a loose bundle of named qualities, neighbourless and seamless. He is thou and fills the firmament. When we see each other first and foremost as thou, we do not objectify, and we bring the kingdom of love alive, right here, right now. In that space, in that relationship, is the love I call God, alive in life. This is the spiritual life. The spiritual life is about relationships. Of course, the way to see how well we're doing is seeing where our relationships with others moves from thou to it. We grow by seeing where we go wrong often. Now, there's one community in the last 12 months I've become a member of that seems very much about I thou rather than I how, I it relationships. This is the community of dog owners and dog walkers. It's a community like no other, except perhaps a parent and infant community. There is a special kind of intimacy that goes on between folk. I collected Molly almost exactly a year ago. She's made an incredible difference to my life. Not only our relationship, but in those I have with folk in the wider community. She has enabled me to get closer to folk and folk to get closer to me. I may not know details of people's lives that I meet, but I do know details of their dogs, and Molly's allowed people to approach and talk to me more frequently in the street. That's good for my work, really, and my own personal life. It's a lovely example of intimate relationships rather than transactional ones. These are I-thou encounters, not I-it. They're not perfect, though, and mirror the difficulties and messiness of all other interactions. Some can still be excluded, and I can still exclude others. I've seen an example in my reaction to something this week, which I'm not pleased with myself about. It was a difficult situation. It was handled well, but my reaction internally about that was not good. I made some errors of judgment. And of course, in life, we do not always engage with others as we would like to. I know when I'm tired or stressed or caught up in grief, as I have been this week, I do not act with people as I would like. I'm certainly not a perfect pastoral minister. Buber often spoke himself of a tragic incident that shaped his life. While still in his 20s, Buber was at home working on a scholarly manuscript when there was a knock on the door. The visitor seemed somewhat distraught, and Buber, sympathetic to the man but anxious to return to his work, answered the man's questions briefly. But as Buber later expressed it, I did not answer the question that he did not ask. Buber subsequently learned that just a few days after their brief encounter, the man died, an apparent suicide. From then on, Buber concluded encounters with people must take precedence over scholarship and mystical speculation. Yeah, he learned about the spiritual life, didn't he? It's about those relationships, being relational. It's not just about scholarship and mystical speculation, as he said. All these things are good and important. And I'm sure we can all remember moments in our lives when we could have related to other people better, when we could have recognized their shared humanity better. I know I have. I've sadly this week attended the funeral of two friends who died in tragic circumstances. The services were beautiful, and so many friends and people who cared for them were present. That said, I left both services with an overwhelming sense of sadness and some guilt. I wondered if I could have done more to help them. This is not the first time I've wondered this, both with friends and with family. Could I or others have made a difference? It's hard to know. It has certainly weighed heavy in my heart these last few days. The week at summer school and the recent events have certainly given me pause, led me to consider how better I can relate to others and meet them where they are, recognizing their sacred uniqueness, to build better relationships with others, myself, with life, with God. For this is the essence of the spiritual life. Whilst also remembering that I cannot do so, I can never do so perfectly. No one can. In many ways, it is the imperfect aspects of ourselves that help us come closer together, that help us to build relationships. And it's all about relationships. This is the spiritual life in its entirety, to see the holy in each other, to bring about holy encounters. This is the kingdom of love right here, right now. It's about seeing ourselves in the other and the other in ourselves. But let's not pretend it's easy. Gosh, it's hard. And none of us can achieve it perfectly. It gets messy, it gets painful, it gets difficult, it's challenging. The key, though, is to attempt. The key is to make a beginning, to move toward a completeness, to love one another and to love life, to move toward the creation of the kingdom of love. And it's got to begin somewhere. So let it begin here, right now. So let's bless one another with our beautiful and imperfect presence. It begins with our next imperfect encounter with one another and with life. It begins when we see the I in thou, in me, in you, in me. Amen. I'm going to end with some words of blessing. You know, we need to bless more. And we can all bless. And we bless when we give ourselves wholeheartedly to life. So here's some words of blessing. As we return to our lives, may we do so inspired to live more fully, more openly, embracing the sacred mystery of life. May we live with open minds, with open hearts, with open spirits. May we inspire this openness in others. May we know the blessings of love. And may we be examples of this spirit. May we do so in all that we feel, in all that we think, in all that we say, in all that we do. Amen.